Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopi Channavalabho Girmadadari Gopi Channavalabho Girmadadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vrindavan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 I want to thank everybody who's come to the Srimad Bhagawatam class to attend what makes this place into a dham, because the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are being recited every day here. It's so wonderful. Today we're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, the status quo, Chapter 10, verses 9 and 10. They actually aren't related so very, very much, but somehow I'm doing 9 and 10. I thought they were, and then I looked and it's like, oh, slightly, very different. So, Etan, Jivalokasya, Etavan Jivalokasya, Samsta, Veda, Samarita. Make it bigger. Everybody should be able to see now, right? Yay, very good. Okay, Dharmas, that means everybody's going to chant the verse. Everybody's got it. Dharmasya, hi animitasya, Dharmasya hi animitasya, Vipaka, Paramesti, Asau, Vipaka Paramesti Asau, Etavan Jivalokasya, Samsta Veda Sama Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya hi Animitasya Vipaka Paramesti Sasau. Okay, Maharaj, fine tune that. I know it needs fine tuning.
That's perfect.
No, the Paramesti Sasau. How is that? Let's get that one right.
Etam jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Ganimitasya Vipaka Parameshtisau
Etavan Jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Hiyanimittasya Vipaka Paramestisjasau Etavan Jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Hiyanimittasya Vipaka Paramestisjasau
Etavan jivalokasya
Samstaveda Samarita
Dharmasya hiyanimittasya Vipaka paramestisjasau
Vipaka Paramestisjasau Etavan Jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Hiyanimittasya Vipaka Paramestisjasau Etavan Jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Hiyanimittasya Vipaka Paramestisjasau Etavan Jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya Hiyanimittasya Vipaka Paramestisjasau
Etavan jivalokasya
Samstaveda Samarita
Dharmasya hiyanimittasya Vipaka paramestisjasau
Vipaka Paramestisjasau
Etavan jivalokasya Samstaveda
Samarita
Dharmasya hiyanimittasya Vipaka paramestisjasau
Vipaka Paramestisjasau. Go ahead.
Etavan jivalokasya Samstaveda Samarita Dharmasya hiyanimittasya Vipaka paramestisjasau
Vipaka Paramestisjasau. Anyone else? Etavan. Up to this. Jivalokasya
Jivalokasya
of the planets
of the planets
inhabited by the living entities.
inhabited by the living entities.
Samsta Veda,
Samsarita,
different situations of habitation.
different situations of habitation.
Samarita,
Samarita,
performed completely.
formed completely.
Dharmasya,
Dharmasya,
of religion.
of religion.
He, certainly.
Certainly.
Animitasya, of causelessness.
Causelessness.
Vipaka,
Vipaka,
mature stage.
mature stage.
Paramesti,
Paramesti,
the highest personality in the universe.
the highest personality in the universe.
Asau,
Asau,
that.
that.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma is the most exalted personality in the universe because of his causeless devotional service unto the Lord in mature transcendental knowledge. He therefore created all the 14 planetary divisions for an inhabitation by the different types of living entities. Repeat after me. Lord Brahma is the most exalted
Lord Brahma is the most exalted
personality in the universe
personality in the universe.
because of his causeless devotional service
Because of his causeless devotional service
unto the Lord
unto the Lord,
in mature transcendental knowledge.
in mature transcendental knowledge,
He therefore created
he therefore created
all 14 planetary divisions
all 14 planetary divisions
for inhabitation
for inhabitation
by the different types of living entities.
by the different types of living entities.
Purport by His Divine Grace. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of all the qualities of the living entities. The conditioned soul is the material world. The conditioned souls in the material world reflect only part of those qualities, and therefore they are sometimes called pratibimbas. Pratibimba living entities, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, have inherited different proportions of his original qualities, and in terms of their inheritance of these qualities, they appear as different species of life and are accommodated in different planets according to the plan of Brahma. Brahma is the creator of the three worlds, namely the lower planets called the Patala Lokas, and the middle planets called the Bhur Lokas, and the upper planets called Sva Lokas. Still higher planets such as Maharloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, and Brahmaloka do not dissolve in the devastating water. This is because of the causeless devotional service rendered unto the Lord by their inhabitants, whose existence continues up to the end of Dviparada time, when they are generally liberated from the chain of birth and death in the material world. This is segueing right into the next verse, so we can see the first thing we want to note from this verse is what makes him the most exalted personality is his devotional service, his causeless devotional service. That's what makes any personality exalted, is their service. That's what separates. In spiritual life, it's all about service. In material life, it's all about sense gratification. My, me, mine, my senses, my. And in devotional service, it's all about the higher self, serving the higher self, the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deities. We're so fortunate. So on to the next shloka. 3:10:10. Vidura uvacha yatatta bahu rupasya ariyabhuta karmanaha kalakyam lakshanam brahman tattavarnayana prabhu. I'm going to read the synonyms. I just love I love the word for word because so much pops in it. You get a lot. Vidura uvacha, Vidura said. Yata, as. Ata, you have said. Bahurupasya, having varieties of forms. Adi, of the Lord. Adbhuta, wonderful. Karmana, adbhuta, nice word. Wonderful. Karmana, of the actor. Kala, time. Akyam, of the name. Lakshanam, symptoms. Brahman, O learned in Brahmana. Yata, as it is. Varnaya, please describe. Na, unto us. Prabhu, O Lord. Translation. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O my Lord, O greatly learned sage, kindly describe eternal time, which is another form of the Supreme Lord, the wonderful actor. What are the symptoms of that eternal time? Please describe them to us in detail. Let's repeat after me. Vidura inquired from Maitreya. O my Lord.
O my Lord.
O greatly learned sage.
O greatly learned sage.
Kindly describe eternal time.
Kindly describe eternal time,
Which is another form of the Supreme Lord.
which is another form of the Supreme Lord,
The wonderful actor.
the wonderful actor.
What are the symptoms of that eternal time?
What are the symptoms of that eternal time?
Please describe them
Please describe them
to us in detail.
to us in detail.
Purport. The complete universe is a manifestation of the varieties of entities beginning from the atoms up to the gigantic universe itself, and all is under the control of the Supreme Lord in the form of Kala, or eternal time. The controlling time has different dimensions in relation to particular physical embodiments. There is a time for atomic dissolution and a time for the universal dissolution. There is a time for annihilation of the body of the human being, and there is a time for the annihilation of the universal body. Also, growth, development, and resultant actions all depend on the time factor. Vidura wanted to know in detail the different physical manifestations and their times of annihilation. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So we see what makes us, or anybody, particularly in this previous verse, Lord Brahma exalted is his devotional service. And we all know devotional service is eternal. So once we're clicked into devotional service, our eternal constitutional position, time may affect the body and it may affect the mind, but it doesn't really affect us because we're transferring all our account to Krishna. We're transferring our time by using it in service to Krishna. We're transferring our energy by using it in service to Krishna. We're using the duration of our life in service to Krishna. So whether we live or whether we die, it's all the same. There's one saying, for the devotee, whether he lives or dies, doesn't matter. Because he's engaging in pure devotional service throughout his life, and upon leaving this body, he will continue to do that devotional service. So our life is in total preparation. We're doing all the activities that we will be preparing to do in the hereafter forever and ever and ever. We're developing a taste. We're purifying our senses. We're pulling them away from the distractions of that which will gratify them. And it's just such a limitation, my senses, my me, mine. And we can see, I know I constantly bring my mother's aging process up into class because I'm learning so much by spending time with her. What happens to a pious person? She was pious. She was a pious person, living in Hawaii in the modes of goodness and passion. But her whole life now, there's a kind of impatience. She wants to know what's going to happen next. She's not in the moment at all. And here we are, that the Lord is one of his forms, that form of eternal time, which is controlling the living entity. If a person isn't in the here and now engaging in the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's an intense restlessness that happens. And when they start to lose their subtle body, lose control of the subtle body, and this happens. It happens. I saw it happening with my father when his medicines needed to be adjusted. He was still hallucinating about being on the job. Fortunately, if we're hallucinating about being on our job, we may be hallucinating twirls of the Arctic, We may be hallucinating getting the garland just right. We may be in illusion, but that illusion will be the eternal constitution, the eternal position of the soul to engage in pure devotional service. We're so gifted. And when you see a person who, like Srila Prabhupada, his divine grace, the way he walked, the way he moved, it was beautiful. His hands, the flutter of his hands, he had long fingers, golden skin. He walked and talked so gracefully. Why do we say his divine grace? It's for real. There's grace. He's not rushing to the next thing. No, he's in grace. He's in a state of grace because he's situated in that eternal constitutional position of the soul. He's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do but serve the Supreme Lord in joy and love. So when he practically floated, people had said that about him, practically floated. And just the twirl of his hand, just the twiddle of his finger, any little thing was graceful. I find myself, once in a while I'll listen, and I hear myself rushing even the verse. Where do I have to go? This is where I am right now, absorbed in this beautiful verse. Why rush it? Every word, Vidura inquired from Maitreya. Wow, what did he inquire? Like we're on the edge of our seat just with the first little portion of the translation of this verse. Vidura inquired. What did he inquire? Oh my Lord, oh greatly learned sage, kindly describe eternal time. Whoa, what? Eternal time? I remember when I was a little girl trying to understand, asking my mommy, what does eternal mean? And she was saying it's like a circle. She was trying really hard to explain it, but because she hadn't given it much thought, how could she really explain it? But here we have the company of sages. They can actually explain this thing from a practical, systematic, scientific process. Then, of course, the mind can only go so far. And then it's like, at the edge of the universe, wait, can't go further. But that's where we take that leap of faith, where the mind doesn't take us any further. But for the devotee who's engaged in pure devotional service, leading a pure life, relishing, adding love to his service, that's the thing. Krishna doesn't need anything we're doing. Sometimes I get in the mode of passion, like particularly, where's Nam? He's not here. But he is, he's behind, okay. Sometimes if I'm in the service of distributing the prasad for the feast, am I in the mode of passion, I gotta tell you. Heavy mode of passion, just don't even get in my way. I'm like, this has to get done. I'm in such a mode of passion to get it all done so that everybody gets their prasad on time. And I don't like myself a whole lot like that, but I know I'm getting a lot done, you know what I mean? It's like, I gotta get this done. But Krishna prefers our mood of love. So it's like, okay, let's see if we can get that all going like we normally do, get it all done, but tink, add love, add a little grace to the space. Can we add love to our daily activities? can we add grace? Sometimes I'm in such mode of passion. I'm so intense about all that I have to do. And now I'm watching my mom go through that. She only has to relax now. But she's like, I have so much to do. One of her mantras, I'm like, yikes. But by the grace of God go I. I could be exactly her. I've got the same genetic material. I could be like that. That is all she needs to do is relax and accept what's going on and hopefully think of God as much as possible. But it's really hard to leave it all to the end of your life. We are so fortunate that we have this beautiful process. And if we really were in a state of grace and adding love to our space and really understanding what's happening, like when those deity doors open and the deities have just been bathed and dressed and they're in their fresh garlands, like, don't we really want to see how beautiful they are? Like, get there so that they see that we've rushed there to see them as soon as we could? That's love. When I was a little girl and I would be walking to see my girlfriend, we would both walk. She was be coming to my house or I'd be going to hers, and as soon as we'd spot each other from a distance, we'd run to see each other and hug. That was innocent love, childhood love. And we are working on getting purified back to this innocent love. We may be doing all big important service, like Hanuman, throwing boulders, really important. Yeah, we're building that bridge. And we're getting there so that, the army can cross over and we're doing super important service. Or we might be a squirrel, and we might be flicking some rocks. But Ram, he petted that little squirrel. There's 3 lines in the back of the squirrel's back because he was, the monkeys were saying, hey, you're in our way. Because they were in that, let's get this done mode. And that there's something to be said for it. And yes, we really do appreciate that also. But let's remember to add grace to our space, add love. And sometimes we're very aware of time, tick, tick, and we've become very aware of time, so aware lately that we are just invested in atomic clocks so that we'll have proper time synchronized in all the clocks around here, so that what's sometimes happening is the deity doors will open a little early or a little late. Little early is even scarier. Who knew? We didn't know opening a little early was so disconcerting because we want to be there for the Lord, and we're like 60 seconds away, and it's opening a minute early. Can you imagine? Throws us all off kilter because we want to be there for the Lord. And as soon as the doors open, we want him to see we're there. We're there for your dear Lord. We showed up exactly when the doors open, and if it opens a minute early, oh my goodness, we're messed up. So we're getting atomic clocks so we can all be on time and on the same page and be there all excited with love to see how beautiful the deities are and how much our devotees here, look at these girls over here doing all this service to make beautiful garlands to the Lord, and pujaris that are dressing the Lord every day. This morning, Markandeya I got to put the Lord's garlands on, and he was saying, do like this, because he's so well experienced. He knows the little ways to make it even better. So we get to see the service that the devotees are performing day after day. And that makes a day after day after day like a garland, like the garlands they're making on a thread. That's a complete offering of a life. Our life is like a beautiful garland of days strung on a thread offered to the Lord with love. And by doing this day after day, by having this regularity of devotion, deity worship is regularity, punctuality, and cleanliness. There's cleanliness, that's something that I have to say, because I'm watching my mother's aging process and I'm going, oh my goodness, like she just let her house go at some point and she was fastidious about keeping her house up, getting everything done. She let it go at some point, and the uncleanliness of that, how important that is for health. Health, Prabhupada said, health is the main thing. We have to have cleanliness. If we don't have cleanliness, and we don't have cleanliness in offering for the deity, then it's really difficult, because that's a portion of purity. And we want our consciousness to be pure, pure love, pure bhakti, pure devotion. So cleanliness is super important, super important. So Krishna is the wonderful actor. So here they're saying, what are the symptoms of eternal time? And yes, Maharaj calls it the pounding the post method, where we are continuously reminded about our eternal constitutional position in so many ways. There was one section I didn't prepare as much as I wanted to, because there's one section in Bhagavad that I love so much and I wasn't able to find it. Due to lack of time spent wisely by me. Because Krishna gave me plenty of time, and I wanted to find this one section in Bhagavatam that it literally talks about the atom and how time is based on the atom. And this microcosmic little teeny tiny speck that is basically the building block of the universe, by the rotation of those neutrons around the protons, or the electrons around the protons and neutrons, it's like a small cosmic manifestation. And we think time is based on the rotation of the sun. But according to Bhagavat, it's about the atoms. That's so microcosmic. It's so tiny. It's based on the rotation of the electron around the neutron and the proton. And then you have the universe. It's like huge. And then you've got all these planets rotating around the sun, and the earth is circling around and circling this way, and then it's circling this way at the same time. It's quite amazing, actually, the synchronicity of it all. And it's so detailed, and there's so many aspects to it, but it's all we need to know is Krishna's time. And he's got the building blocks of creation under control based on his sweet will. When he goes to sleep in his yoga nidra and he breathes it all into his body again, every universe goes into a pore of his body. It's all there in its rough form, just atomic energy, but it's not combining into shapes and forms and sizes. The periodic table has 118 elements. They're building blocks to the universe, and they contain electrons, protons, and neutrons. And those are just in different combinations. It's paint by number universe. And according to Krishna's will, the universe manifests because he arranges the atoms in such a way. Each one of those elements has a particular configuration, a certain number of protons, a certain number of neutrons and electrons. And that makes up different elements. So he says, oh yes, this is what I would like to do. And so by his sweet will, a manifestation takes place. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Did any of you have paint by numbers set when you were kids?
Yes.
You did? Yes, we did too. We had all kinds of little educational things that, educational toys that we were given. But paint by numbers is what this universe is about. It's what the absolute science is here is math, numbers. Everything is counted because it's limited. It's limited by time, the controlling factor. Time is controlling us by the cycle of time. Even the upper planetary systems, it says in the other verse, it talks about the 14 planetary systems that Lord Brahma manifests under the jurisdiction and the architectural plans of the Lord. Everything was given to him. He had all the building blocks of creation. He had the plans.
Jai Shri Panchatattva.
Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Jai. He had everything he needed to manifest the creation. Every little aspect. And the upper planets, as Srila Prabhupada has said here in this purport, is there's a pralaya where the unmanifestation of the lower planets takes place, but because the upper planetary inhabitants are very much engaged in pure devotional service, the eternal constitutional position, they have a much longer duration of life. So they're practicing to really get out of this, fully get out of this situation. But they may make mistakes even there and fall back down to this earthly or hellish condition of life. So, and some of them think, oh, 100, just small, a few, 100 years you spend in devotional service and then you go back to Krishna. Prabhupada said the demigods are lining up to take birth in this movement, to spend 100 years in pure devotion and then go back to Krishna Loka. It's an easy way. In the previous ages, you would meditate for 10,000 years. You didn't get a notification on your phone distracting you. Ding! I immediately think, oh, who wrote something? Phone distraction. They didn't have that problem. So, and they don't. So they're engaged in long amounts of time in pure devotional service. And we are practicing. We have our training wheels on, and we're getting the flow of it. We're getting the hang of this pure devotional service in this life. And it's getting juicier and juicier and more fun. Where sometimes we feel sad, like, you guys, isn't it so sweet? Look at the deities come. It's like we really want to share the joy of Krishna consciousness with you. One day I saw our dear friend Daniel, as he was walking up the steps to the temple, he stopped for a minute. He went, there it is. He acknowledged the amazing feeling of peace and joy. And he just stopped for a minute and let that wave crash over him. I watched him and I was like, you got it. But sometimes we're so speedy in our doer mentality, we forget about what this is all about. This place is grace. This place is full of grace. This place is Chintamani. This place is this is Krishna's Dham, his abode, where his pastimes are taking place every morning, and now a lot in the evening too, because these wonderful classes are being held, and Nagapatni's doing wonderful classes in the back, and Maharaj is doing some classes here, and there are international kinds of transcendental sound vibrations going on all over the place. So, are there any questions or comments? I have lots more to say, but it's good enough.
How do we put a lot more grace in their space?
By relishing Krishna consciousness, taking the time to realize and appreciate Krishna's mercy. Add that to the equation of, instead of the rushing, huffing, and puffing business, mode of passion is kind of a whip cracking space. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.